This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest episode of DocNJock featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy Adam, the Jock Strozinski. My goodness, we got a lot to get to. The Lions are going through free agency, and the fan base is panicking, and they should be. What the heck is going on right now? Because I'm free to share with you. There's a media session going on that I just did not want to go to. They did not even bother to air it live in front of the fan base because you got Larry Borum, Isaiah Pacheco, Teddy Bridgewater, Juice Scruggs, and the Lions are like, well, I don't think we got to air this live. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather talk to my guy Adam about what the hell's going on because we need to level this out because free agency looks to be something that the Lions are using basically to just patch holes. But when we look at it so far through 3 days, are you seeing it the same way I am? What the hell is going on?
I have zero clue what's going on. Look, we wanted him to address the offensive line in free agency. That was one of the most important things. You did not want to put another rookie along that offensive line, especially when you have to retool the entire thing. Like, you have essentially one guy. You've got Penei Sewell. That's who you're building around. And then you've got Tate Ratledge, okay? So you've got a right guard, and you've got the guy who's probably going to be your left tackle, and that's all you've got. So you go out and you grab the center. And when we started free agency, I was like, okay, cool, makes sense. Is he the best center that's available? No. Is he the guy that we all wanted? No. When you look at what happened with Tyler Linderbaum and you look at what the Raiders paid for him, there's no way you can feasibly justify paying a center, what is it? It's about 25-ish million dollars a season. Like, you just can't do that. Like, you're going to end up breaking your bank account, and you already are up against the cap. Now, since then, Jared Goff has restructured, and we can talk a little bit about what that means. But Brad Holmes hasn't done anything with that money. Going out and signing what might have been the fourth, maybe fifth best center that was available. Like, I'm not sure what that does. And look, depending on what you subscribe to as far as metrics go, he's either pretty good or he's not good at all. So, like, that doesn't make me feel good about our center position. Do I think he's an upgrade over Graham Glasgow? Sure. Do I think he's an upgrade over Ratledge? Sure. But when you really hone in and you look at the rest of this offensive line, it's still kind of in shambles because who the hell is Larry Borum? Who the hell is that guy? Like, when that was announced, I was like, who's this guy? And then I tried looking him up and I was typing in the wrong name because I never heard of him. And then it took me like a day to figure out who he was and find out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he's just a depth guy. All right.
Correct.
Great. So, like, when I look at Brad Holmes and I look at his free agent hauls, I think when we go back over time, Roy Lopez is probably going to be his best free agent selection. Like, Roy Lopez will probably be that guy. To me, he does not take free agency seriously enough, and it shows.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the game plan is here. I really don't understand what we're trying to do.
It's
everywhere.
Cause you understand it, but what you're saying is you don't agree with it. And here's the deal. Because when we look at it from the perspective of roster building, this is not something that's signaling we're making a push. But defensively, I think Roy Lopez will be a guy that people will respect. On the other side, offensively, I think he'll get credit for David Montgomery. That was a nice free agent signing that they, in the end, didn't end exactly right, but that'll be a nice notch on his belt to get somebody to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs. But here's the deal, and we know it. We just can't accept it because we are so much in belief that if they made more aggressive free agency moves, they could win a Super Bowl. But because it's true, his strength is to fully evaluate a player in the draft, and he wants to go younger, cheaper, and that's what they're doing. It's a youth movement. It's a silent retool. It's clear. They're not going to come out and say, well, John and the rest of the fan base, we kind of realized our guys got old. We had our nice 5-year run. We had 4 winning years. We peaked in 23. We got to where we needed to go, and in this last meeting, they said, okay, we got to go younger. We got to have guys that can practice. Dan's going to run them into the ground, so we got to have younger guys. And that's what they did. There's a lot of guys now in their 20s that they got to step up. Here's the problem. Great. We now know they're younger, but there's a whole other issue that is very concerning. They're not more talented. You lost Alex Anzalone, Emmitt Robertson, Taylor Decker, David Montgomery, and you replaced them all with guys only as role players. So that means they're going in the draft. It's a silent retool. It's clear. There's no way other to look at it as 26 is to restock the draft with 9 good players and another draft and another free agency. And cause this is what it is. The Lions are not pushing. They're not going to use free agency to overspend. They have a budget. It's basically the black Steve Eiserman. And that's the strategy. It's just that's what it is. It's the
with a really good tan.
Yeah, it's a strategy of we know the number we're gonna pay, but cause also too realistically look at it. Cause Jalen Phillips got $30 million a year for 7 sacks a year. That is crazy free agency value. Linderbaum got $6 million more than the market dictated for a center. So that is a little wonky in what's going on in free agency. I get it, but I'm telling you, the fans are going to go A++ signings and expensive, but Brad's going bargain bin. Those are the headlines bloggers are writing. Here are the bargain bin edge rushes we can get. Here are the bargain bin line. I'm like, can we find a middle ground of like a Leo Chanel or a safety like Cross where but the funny thing is that I told you, cuz the budget was going to be the highest price free agent was probably going to be between $8 and $10 million. I called the number. It was going to be this. And the biggest hole was center. And that's that. Brad's kicking up his feet going, I'm done, man. They had the media session today and they didn't even air it live. What else is that going to say? If they added Max Crosby, you damn well know that video, that camera guy will be firing it up and taping it live. So it's that's a strategy, but they've won with it. The problem is we're all screaming, you can't, I can't find anybody to make me believe you can win big with this.
No, and that's the thing. Like you look at what he's done in free agency, and you said it perfectly. They're not better. Your job is to get better year on year. You're not better. You took a significant step back last year. There's a dramatic drop off, specifically with the offensive line, and then you turn around this year, and you had a huge loss of talent. Alex Anzalone, whatever you want to think about Alex Anzalone, he was great here. Alex Anzalone was great here. He was a very good player, did all the things you want to do, and he was important in establishing that defense and building that culture. Alex Anzalone was fantastic as a Detroit Lion. Emmitt Robertson, I know he has his shortcomings when he's lined up wide, but when the guy is covering a slot wide receiver or he's playing nickel or he's playing dime, he is a beast in the box. Anything closer to the ball, the guy is a savage. He's great there. Okay, they, due to injuries, had to repurpose him and reutilize him. And no, he wasn't very good outside, but he's still a very good cornerback. Checks notes, and hey, your secondary is still dead. Kirby Joseph still has the knee of a 110-year-old grandmother. Brian Branch ain't coming back anytime soon because the Achilles is gone. Terrion Arnold might be doing actual serious time because he wanted to get involved in a kidnapping ring, allegedly. Ernest Raystraw is still on the side of a milk carton. I haven't seen him since he's been drafted. I don't know if that guy can play. And DJ Reed's just not good. So you had a guy who was actually talented, and instead you decide to go back and bring back Rakia Sin? What? Rakia Sin? This is the guy? That's the guy who's going to help fix your secondary? Get the hell out of here. He was like your 6th cornerback last year. But that's the guy you chose to bring back. Makes absolutely no sense to me. So then when you have all this crazy stuff take place with the Ravens and the Raiders regarding Max Crosby, if Brad Holmes had any aggression in him at all, if he had any testosterone in his nutsack, If he was cunning at all, I would have rolled over and I'd have called Mark Davis. I'd have called Tom Brady. I'd have called whomever I had to get a hold of over at Raiders headquarters and say, hey, let's do this. All this shit just blew up. Eric DaCosta's an asshole, and he played you guys. Let me send my doctor out there. I want to take a look at that knee real quick. I know what the deal is. I know it's a meniscus repair. I know it's not a meniscus trim. I know he's going to be on crutches for a while because, again, checks notes. Brad Holmes loves injured guys. Just look at how he drafts guys in the draft. Look at the guys he signs in free agency. Marcus Davenport. I'm going to send my doctor out there. He'll be out there first thing in the morning. See you at 8 o'clock Vegas time. And let him take a look at that knee. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to send you a first round pick, and I'm going to send you next year's second round pick. Let me get Max Crosby. You just talked about a guy, Jalen Phillips, who had 7 sacks last year, getting $30 million. What I don't think people understand, yes, Max Crosby just signed an extension, and it's an expensive extension. But you're not on the hook for the guaranteed money. The guaranteed money comes out of Las Vegas's money. So you are essentially paying him his base contract. You can get that guy. You can get that production. Compare that to Jalen Phillips. You're spending $30 million this year. You're spending $29 million next year. And then I think it goes down to something like $27 million after that. I could be wrong about that third year, but I know it's 30 and then 29. You could get that kind of production. You could pair that with Aiden Hutchinson. Instantly, your defensive line looks better and stronger. And right there, that is your mic drop moment for free agency. Good. Okay, so now we can kind of absolve Larry Broom, and we can absolve Malcolm Rodriguez. We can absolve just random players. Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco hasn't been good in 2.5 years. His knee went boom, then it went boom again, and he hasn't been any good. So, Isaiah Pacheco coming in to be David Montgomery tells you what that offense is going to be. It's going to be a heavy dose of Jahmyr Gibbs in your running back room because Isaiah Pacheco just isn't any good. He's done. That's why you don't sign running backs to that second contract because you use and abuse them. But you go get a guy like Max Crosby, you drop the mic, and yeah, you're giving up the first round this year. I understand it sucks. And you're giving up a second round next year. Yeah, I understand it sucks. But you've got a guy who's incredibly productive, and it just opened up your window. A guy who openly says he wants to be here opens up your window for 4 years, and it allows you time to fix that secondary. Because what's the best thing for a bad secondary, John? It's 2 DNs who can wreak havoc and put the quarterback on a clock and cause pressures and get to them and have them throw off platform. And that's what those 2 dudes would do. Instead, what's Brad Holmes doing, man? He's out there looking down the depth chart, getting guys like Larry Broom. Cool, you brought back Rodrigo. I like Rodrigo, but he's a special teams player, and sometimes he's a rotational guy. He's not making your linebacking core any better. And look, I'm glad you went back to the well and you got Teddy Bridgewater. Fantastic, because what that tells me is you realize that there was an issue with your backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater coming in, it makes me feel a little bit better because what you had before with Kyle Allen wasn't great, and anybody else that you've tried there before hasn't been great. So you go back to the well. And this is what I think Brad Holmes is telling all of us. He feels comfortable operating inside of a very small box. He has to feel comfortable with the player. He has to feel comfortable with the relationship. Brad Holmes does not like to go outside of his box. And if you want to be a champion, if you want to be good, if you want to win a Super Bowl, if you want to contend regularly, you sometimes have to get uncomfortable. You sometimes have to go out of that box. You sometimes have to make that uncomfortable move. That move that Eric DaCosta got cold feet on for Max Crosby, you sometimes have to make that move if you want to be a Super Bowl champ. Brad Holmes, to me, at this moment in time, yes, he's very good at analyzing and evaluating young talent that's in the draft. He does a very good job with that. Yes, he's had crazy misses, and he's moved up for bums. But for the most part, he does a pretty decent job in the draft. I would say he is better than most when it comes to the draft. The thing is, if you're a general manager in the National Football League, it's not just about one thing. It's not just about the NFL draft. It's also about doing stuff with free agents. It's also about working out contracts and negotiating things. Brad Holmes, in my estimation, sucks at free agency. He does not like to deal with free agency. Honestly, man, he is the most average general manager there that's ever been average because he's only good at the draft. He blows at free agency. He doesn't go out there and grab guys and address guys and bring guys in. And then you look at the problem that he got himself in with negotiating contracts. He's gone out and he's extended guys way before he's had to, and now you've got guys who are basically dead on a shelf, and you got to pay their contracts. The way he has essentially been reckless with a pocketbook in one sense and been so conservative with the pocketbook in another, if you're a Lions fan, you deserve to be frustrated. And
Okay, but
I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with Brad Holmes. I don't understand what's going on with the Lions.
Okay, so what's good about having a long form way to discuss it is we're discussing kind of the general reaction of, well, we believe the talent is really good on offense. We believe that you have a lot of weapons that can do some things. But when you're the Lions, and the Lions are not fanboys, so let's look at it and put ourselves in the Lions situation. Okay, what if they're just saying it, but they can't say it publicly? Like, look, we had a nice 5-year run. It produced 4 winning seasons and a peak in 23. Okay, that was our first window. It's closed. Now, Dan Campbell said we have to evolve. We have to get more competition. And what it means is we got to get younger. We got to have bodies that can withstand the grind of the work I'm going to put them in. Brad Holmes says, okay, we got to get you younger. We have some young offensive linemen. We got some young guys coming up. We have some young cornerbacks. We had young safeties, but they fell apart due to injury. That's bad luck. They're like, all right, we got 9 draft picks, and we're going to have another 9 the next year. I would bet if we put a microphone and a camera in that room, they looked at it honestly, and they said, look, 26 is not a Super Bowl year. We got to retool this. We got to get younger and see what happens. We got a playoff team. And so here's the way I described it recently. Look, for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, their contract ends in 2027. Okay, so if you push all in and you fail and you don't get it, this fan base will be a little upset, a little grumpy, and they'll say you don't know how to assess talent and you don't know how to get it done. That puts your contract in jeopardy. Now, listen, people are going to forget today in 5 minutes. They'll listen to the podcast and they'll go about their day. They'll smoke a bunch of weed and they'll forget it. This team makes the playoffs. They get a win. Maybe they lose a tough fought game to the Rams. Now you'll sell to Sheila. We had 5 winning seasons, 3 in the postseason. Next year, with a year left, you're not going to make Brad Holmes a lame duck. So this self-serves Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell that, hey, we understand. And they had to have told Sheila, look at this roster. Look at what we've done. And I think, actually, in a way, just talking to you about it, I would presume if we drank bourbon with Brad Holmes, he would say, listen, this team is not as good as you fans think it is. It's good, yes, but it's not Super Bowl good. We got a lot of holes. Yes, you guys are right, but we can't, in our way we do business, we can't plug them all with $30 million guys all across the board. We want to win also in 27, 28, and we can do that. Like, they believe they've built the floor to make the playoffs, and they're looking at, let's take the right pick to go after the title. Is it fair to say, look, if that's what happened, if my assessment is accurate and they sold that to Sheila, would you accept that, taking a gap year in 26 to just get a bunch of young dudes and stock them up again in next year and make 27 the year that we maybe get the signal? Would you be okay with that? Because it might be more realistic to say, you know what, maybe there just are too many holes on this team.
If I'm being honest with you, that's what I believe that they were going to have to do since the end of the season. Just kind of looking at this team, looking at the attrition that they were going to have through free agency, looking at the pieces that they have, looking at the lack of draft picks and not so much just the lack of draft picks, but the lack of draft picks in quality position. They've got 0 third-round picks. Now, they have been able to acquire other picks for the 5th round and a little bit beyond, but when we go to do our draft assessment, you're not looking at starters in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. You don't usually get starters out of there. You're happy if you can get a rotational guy there. So looking at what they have as far as draft capital, looking at the pieces that were leaving, and looking at where they were at with their salary cap situation, I believe that was going to be a gap year from the get-go. That being said, when you have your quarterback come out and restructure and essentially give you $32 more million, you move a guy like David Montgomery, and again, you get some draft capital back, but you get out from underneath. I think it was like $6 or $8 million for his contract. You end up moving a couple of other pieces around. You let go of Taylor Decker, and what'd you get? $12 million from Taylor Decker being let go. So all of a sudden, you have, what is that? 32, 44. You have almost $50 million extra in cap space. You were 9 over, so you're at about $40 million. Just rough numbers. You're at about $40 million. You have the ability to leverage another team, and this is probably more an indictment on Brad Holmes. That's probably where my angst and my anger comes from, is just looking at how Brad Holmes operates. You have the ability to leverage another team like the Raiders, who had something blow up in their face because of the Ravens, and you're not taking advantage of that. Like, it's not one of those things where you're going to get Max Crosby for 1 year. You're getting Max Crosby to yes, you're rebuilding this year and you're restocking. This is your gap year, but you're looking at the year after that. So if you could have Max Crosby for 3 years in that window, because his contract's good for about 4 years. I think he's got 4 years on his deal left. You have Max Crosby for 3 years when you're going to push all in. And it's one of those things where I just don't know if he's any good at layering these pieces for the foundation or adding to the foundation so you can go boom in 2027.
Okay, they made a signing. Breaking news alert. They made a signing because the Lions are signing former Bucks DB Christian Izien to a 1-year deal. Former undrafted free agent out of Rutgers has been productive, recording 165 tackles, 3 picks, 5 PBUs, and 3 forced fumbles since entering the league in 2023. So most people are like, okay, good role player, prove it deal. And yeah, that's a strategy. 1 year, prove it, guys. Work for your money, baby. And that's where the Lions are at.
And this is what he does. And that's what he does.
That's what we're doing.
That to me is frustrating. When you've got a team that, and me and you are on the same page, it's a gap year. 2026 is going to be a gap year. I'm not expecting this team to compete with the likes of the Bears. I am expecting this team to not get embarrassed by the Vikings. I'm expecting this team to go blow for blow with Green Bay. When you look internally at the division, okay, they've got a last place schedule, so I'm looking at them to pick up wins there. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, and that's fine. It's a gap year. All that being said, you have the ability to make some pretty gangster moves that's going to help put your team in a better spot. Not so much this upcoming year, but the next 2 and 3 years, when you really should have everything retooled and you should be pushing. To me, it just, look, you look at how the Rams operate, and they end up trading for Matt Stafford, and next thing you know, they get to the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl, and then they got to take a step back, hit the reset button, and then, but in the background, they're making these moves that are setting them up for a Super Bowl that they might win in 2026. And the whole time that's going on, you haven't even got there. Closest you got was 30 minutes away from playing from it. And to me, it is frustrating and it sucks. And then we have breaking news of them signing a guy, like an undrafted cornerback
who's sub 6 feet. Listen, I don't judge, but he is 5'10".
It's essentially me out there on a Vespa. Like, what are we doing?
Listen, what's up with the Lions? Have their people. They go to the Bucks for their cornerback. They love the Bucks. I respect it. You know, they love the Bucks cornerbacks. But listen, that's what they're doing. It's nice. It's a nice spot to potentially fill with the departure of Amik Robertson. Because, yeah, there's got to be a lot of hope needed that these guys like Tyrion Arnold, Tyleek Williams, Ennis Rakestraw, they got to develop, and you got to make sure that Jack Campbell continues. You got to find a linebacker. You got to plug it. You got to have more high impact. That's what it is.
You got Rodrigo. What do you mean you need?
You need more impact.
Rodrigo back.
But yeah, and listen, I think the more you come to terms with it, that it's realistic that the Lions are trying to be a little bit responsible. I get it, but here's the thing you can safely say. The mistakes that you made in the draft in 24 and 25 set you behind where you could be on the road. You know what I mean? So metaphorically, if the road to the Super Bowl is in LA and it took you 3,000 miles to get there, you're 2,600 miles away. You could have been only 1,000 miles away if you actually drafted in the 24 draft is looking bad. You know, Dallas got a couple linemen with the trade and it was a funny joke that was made on a couple of content shows on YouTube, but they were joking. They're like, wait a minute, in the last 3 years, who's done a better job, Jerry Jones or Brad Holmes? And we're like, well, it's a funny joke to kind of look at it, but you realize, wait a minute, Brad Holmes is doing his thing in the draft, but he actually whiffed in the draft when he was drafting lower. Like, you could argue that you got the wrong corner you traded up for. You didn't get the right guy in Terry and Arnold. You could argue that, again, when you whiff on Josh Pascal in the second round and you whiff early in your tenure on Levi Onwuzurike, second-round picks are guys that could be producing. You could say, well, we need interior depth.
Another guy like Broderick Martin,
Hendon Hooker, the whiffs, I know everybody has them, but when you say, why are you 1,300 more miles away, that's why. So that's where the frustration is real and valid, that, yeah, we accept first comment on X at Detroit Podcast. What do they have against height in the secondary? That's why I love X and our fans. You guys are the best. You know, I love our people, man. They're funny. It's just, you know, and listen, I don't care. I'm short, but I have height requirements. My corners, if I'm running for general manager, god darn it, and my statement to the Lions fans is there will be no defensive back sub 6 feet in your program. We will look high and wide for these cornerbacks, and they're all going to be 6'1", minimum. I mean, my God, let's think about it. You're going to have 5'10" Christian Isian guarding Jordan Addison. It's like, come on. What are you going to do? It is what it is. 1 year deal. Prove it, guys. They're doing the value thing. Who's going to be gritty? Who's going to be tough? Who's going to be loyal? Who's going to get run into the ground by Dan Campbell and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? They don't want guys to be like, oh, my back hurts today and taking 3 days off.
So we look at the moves that they've made, right? We look at everything that they've done. What's been the most impactful move that Brad Holmes has made that has made this team better? Is it a guy like Pacheco who, look, I believe his career's
It's
done.
Cade Mays. I think it's Cade Mays.
It has to be Cade Mays, right?
Yeah.
But here, what's your evaluation on Cade Mays? Because, like I said, depending on what you read, depending on which metric system you subscribe to, he's either on the verge of being incredibly good or he's a complete bum. And that makes it hard to understand what you might have here. This guy was a backup in Carolina who got the opportunity, and look, did take advantage of it for the most part, but he was a backup. He was a guy who actually bounced around a little bit, got brought back to Carolina, then due to injury gets subbed in, and he played well, but like it's not like he is Tyler Linderbaum. It's not like he's McGovern. He's not like he's those guys. Like, does he have the ability to get better? Yes, he's a youngish player. Hopefully Petzing puts him in a decent scheme, and hopefully Hank Fraley can pull something out of him. And here's the other thing. We talk about Hank Fraley like he walks around on water. What the hell has Hank Fraley really done with anybody? You know, like everybody talks about Hank Fraley being the second coming of offensive line coaches. You look at some of the guys that they have, and I've not seen a ton of development from some of these dudes. I haven't seen Mahogany hasn't necessarily been lighting the lamp for me when it comes to his development. You look at Ratledge. Wasn't able to take that step that they needed him to take to be center. So I thought he was okay as guard. Who else they've got? I'm pulling up their Giovanni Manu. That's the guy who I keep thinking of. Giovanni Manu's done nothing. That was a guy that they moved up to get. He was supposed to be a project. He was supposed to take steps forward. He's given you nothing. Absolutely nothing. Cordy Swordsdahl, that was another guy who essentially has given you nothing. Miles Frazier, we thought was a good draft pick, might turn out to be a good draft pick, but in the limited time that he's played, he can't stay on the field. They're constantly subbing him in and out. I just, dude, I look at this team and I look at what they've got going on, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like, I don't think you've done anything to make anything better. Yes, Cade Mays is probably the most impactful move that you have made. That being said, I I just don't know, man. I'm frustrated watching what he's trying to do. And yeah, I guess it would be Cade Mays, who's probably the best move they made. I could argue Teddy Bridgewater because I feel a little bit more at ease with him as the backup quarterback. So when this offensive line lets Jared Goff down and he dies and is in a body cast, Teddy Bridgewater can come in and maybe won't throw 4 interceptions, might only throw you 3. It just, I am frustrated with looking at how this is all put together. To me, it just feels like it is all strung together with rubber bands and duct tape. I look at their depth chart here. Tyler Lacey is the guy who is opposite of Aiden Hutchinson right now. That's the guy who's roughly plugged in as the right D end. Who's Tyler Lacey? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know he was brought in last year, if I remember correctly, but who the hell is he? Like, this is essentially what it is, specifically on defense. Like, this is what you've got going on your defense, and your offensive line is dog shit. And it's just, I don't know what we're doing. Brad Holmes is kicking his feet up, smoking cigars because he signed a center for $25 million for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and it's a strategy, and I guess we now know this is what it is. Free agency is not going to be a frenzy. It's going to be free agency savings, free agency bargains, free agency values.
Like this every year, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is bushel bin shopping every year. He goes to Blockbuster and he looks at the preview DVDs, and he just tries to find one that doesn't have a ton of scratches on it, and he'll go and he'll buy up 3 of those because he gets the value on them. It just, to me, it's frustrating, dude.
It's frustrating. It is.
Everybody acts like he is the second coming of Christ because he put together. He basically brought him out of the doldrums.
Right.
Well, cool. The fact that you have a competent brain that works was able to get these guys out of the doldrums. I don't feel like it took a ton to get them from being absolute dog shit and being the laughing stock of the NFL to get them to where they're at. It's taking that next step that's hard. That next step shows how good you really are. When you're regularly competing for NFC championships, when you're regularly competing for Super Bowl opportunities, when you're in the Super Bowl and you're winning stuff, that's when we really get to gauge you. Right now, you're just a guy. You're just a guy. And you and your stupid villain T-shirts and walking around acting all smug. And when you're in your stupid little interviews with the press and you're just like, well, what's your definition of aggressive? I don't know. Anything that you're not. How about that, Brad? Anything that you're not is aggressive.
Yeah.
Because you just sit back on your ass and sit back on your hands. Everybody else is just passing you by.
Listen, to a degree, is it wrong then to ask him, like, when he says define aggressive, like maybe finding a talent that maybe you feel like you didn't want to pay a certain amount, but you slightly overpay for him, but he's a good talent? Is that aggressive? Or is that just he's saying we have our principle and we are not going to budge from that? Is it wise not to do that, to overpay? Like, because we're soon going to talk about Steve Yzerman, and unfortunately, because he hasn't overpaid, when he faces injury, the depth is not really there. So, is it wrong? Is it a wrong strategy to say we value you as a player worth $3 million, and we're not going to give you 4.2? Is that right? Because I get it. You can't argue. The problem is he's got no leg to stand on for sustained success because you went from NFC Championship to first round loss to not making the playoffs. So where's my sustained success? I'm not. I mean, are we going to change the goalpost to make it so that sustained success means just winning seasons? No, sustained success means multiple years, winning in the postseason, and things like that. So, he's got work to do to align with what people want.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. He's got stuff that he has to take care of and ensure up. So we can talk about what being a good general manager and what success is. The moment you walk in the door, the goal was to win the NFC North, win the NFC Championship, and win a Super Bowl. That's the goal. Every year, that's the goal. That's what they tell us every year. You're not doing it. Like, you're not. Like, I can only give you so much credit for doing a couple of those things one or two times. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's frustrating. And if he was to ask me what is my definition of being aggressive, what does aggressive look like? Aggressive looks like making a move that puts you over the top, or making a move that helps to raise the talent level and helps to raise the expectation of the team going into the season or at a certain point in the season. And again, an aggressive move would be to go get Max Crosby. Instantly, we're talking about this defense differently if Max Crosby's on this defense. Going out and paying for a top line center, right? Back channeling and working things out so you can get a guy. Like, I don't think Linderbaum was going to happen just because of the amount of money that he wanted. And it sounds like term was important to him. You look at what the Lions were willing to pay for Cade Mays, 3 at 25. Linderbaum got 3 at 81. Like, it's a huge disparity. We can have as many drinks as we want. We can have as much coffee as we want. We can sit around the table and talk as much as we want. It is going to be really, really difficult to close that gap on about $56 million. Like, you're just not going to be able to do that. Linderbaum wanted a payday, got his payday. He'll be able to hit the market in 3 years, and he'll be able to get paid more again. The hope is Cade Mays can grow into something that is similar to Linderbaum. I don't know if it happens. Again, I feel like that was a safe move. That was an aggressive move. So it's raising the talent in the room by any means necessary. And no, I don't want you to get rooked in a trade. Your job is to go and rook the other team in a trade. And that's why I'm saying you, at this moment in time, would be a prime opportunity to try to leverage what's going on with the Raiders. The Raiders went out and spent an assload of money, like a ton of money, on a bunch of free agents because I thought that Max Crosby was gone. Their books are going to be a little bit out of whack because now they've got a $30 million meal ticket that they've got to pay in Max Crosby. So go leverage that to your advantage, knowing that they've got to get out from underneath that contract. On top of that, Max Crosby is pissed about what the Ravens did. He's pissed about what the Ravens did, and he has said countless times that he would love to come here and play in Detroit. And he loves a guy like Dan Campbell, and he loves the whole grit thing. So just make it happen. Any means necessary. That's being aggressive in my book. Go do it. Just go be aggressive. Be aggressive.
Be aggressive. That's all anybody's asking for here in Motown. Well, cuz it's March, so you know what that means. Red Wings swoon.
The Red Wings swoon.
The Red Wings swoon. Losing with 90 seconds to go when you're up by a goal and not getting a point. That's not something we haven't seen here in at least 365 days. And Dylan Larkin's hurt. It's like clockwork. It's like, my goodness. It's free agent. It's Brad Holmes being bargain bin shopping. It's Dylan Larkin going down for 2 weeks at crunch time, and it's the Red Wings not picking up points when you need it. It's March in the D. It's March in the D. Here comes a tweet right to you. It's March in the D.
Brad Holmes not making moves and not being aggressive.
Yeah.
Fucking Red Wings just imploding, and Steve Eisman. He was active in the trade deadline, so we do have to give him some credit there. But I never understood bringing in David Perron, and I did not understand trading Soderblom when, if I remember correctly, he was the guy that I think Minnesota might have wanted. It might have been Edvinson, but Minnesota wanted one of our defensemen for Quinn Hughes. If you're going to trade Soderblom for a third-round pick, and you could have gotten Quinn Hughes with some other capital and some other pieces, to me, it just, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's frustrating, but they did get the defenseman that you wanted, so that's good, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I looked at his name. I didn't know he was plus 30. I was hoping he was in his 20s. I was like, maybe 28. But listen, he's a good guy. I think he's a nice addition. It was the right move. Nice addition. We talked about him. He made my top 4 list, which was good. But a first and a third, I was like, But cuz, what's this? Tell the people, what's the seriousness of this swoon? What's the schedule look like? is it serious that, hey, if they dip in the next couple games by the time we talk again next Thursday, is it serious? What's the concern level? Because right now I'm shaking a little bit my legs that, okay, I'm a little concerned. I got my side eye going. The Pistons are winning games. They still are doing their thing, but they've been a little rocky with a little bit of a losing streak recently here in the last week. But what's the concern level for these Detroit Red Wings?
So it's more based on where they're at in the standings, right? So they have the first wild card spot. You've got Boston on their heels. You've got Ottawa, Florida also kind of lurking. You've got other teams that are right there trying to take advantage and capitalize. The Red Wings are in a weird spot where having the loss of Dylan Larkin is obviously going to hurt you. You can't afford to go on an extended losing streak at this time. It's one of those things where one game starts to slip into 2 games, 2 games slips into 4 games, and next thing you know, they're completely out of playoff contention. So you look at their schedule, they've got they're playing Tampa tonight, they're playing Dallas on Saturday, then you've got Calgary, Montreal, and then you've got big matchups against Boston and Ottawa. Buffalo is going to obviously be a challenge, and now we're getting to the back end of March. So they've got to figure a couple of things out here very, very quickly, and they've got to come away with points. You can't afford to give away free points like you talked about the other day. The game against Florida where they're leading, and next thing you know they end up losing the game and not getting a point out of the deal. You can't have those games. Like, you just can't have those games. And you're going to have to figure out a way to compensate for Dylan Larkin being down. You're going to have to find somebody who's going to be able to take that role on and play those minutes. That's why, like I said, I didn't understand trading for David Perron as much as I like David Perron. David Perron is he's a middle 6 forward, right? And he's hurt. So I just don't understand why you'd give up what you gave up to get him when you could go out and get a guy who could possibly take those minutes that Larkin is now giving up, and you could plug him in. Instead, you got a guy who you're waiting, and you're hoping that March doesn't bite you in the butt. You're waiting for a guy who will help generate wins in April. That doesn't make sense to me. I think the move for Falk was good. I think he helps shore up your defense, and I think Gibson is still dealing with something, but he's muscling through it. All that being said, you're not in a position where you can live dangerously like this. You've got to figure out ways to win games, and it's just going to be another one of those things. To me, it's going to be incredibly interesting to see what this team does. If this team does fall apart down the stretch, I could definitely see it happening. I could totally see it happening. Pittsburgh's in playoff contention. Buffalo has been a really nice surprise this year. Boston's in playoff contention. All those teams, they want wins. Tampa, Dallas, those are teams that are going to be tough roads to hoe. So you are in a spot where your schedule is going to be tough, and you're down arguably your best offensive player, and you're in a spot where your back's really against the wall. And it's going to be funny to hear what McClellan says, because I could see them losing the next 2 games and rolling into the week against Calgary, and McClellan just kind of losing his mind, being like, I don't want to hear about March. Well, we're here. We're in March. The moment you said you didn't want to hear about March.
Yeah, give me some 2 points.
You went out and you lost some games. So figure it out, bro. Like, let's get this figured out, because since March has gotten underway, you guys are 3-2, and it ain't looking real good because you've lost your best offensive player.
Yeah, so that's how it goes. All right, my man. Great episode as always. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRStroz. Before we get out of here, want to congratulate my dog. We hung out. It was a fun time over the weekend. Adam now has a son. So 60 seconds or so, if you've thought about this, we all know now, having daughters, you want them to grow up, marry nice, and raise nice families, be able to protect us when we're older. What do you think about your son? What do you envision? You envision him suit and tie lawyer, rugged tight end for the Spartans? What do you picture when you say, okay, my heir to the throne of the Strozinski name, what do you picture for him? Now, listen, Don't tell me you hope he's an adult star and swings his thing all over the place and becomes like an empire. Tell us what you really think about when you sit back. I don't know if you've ever thought about it yet. Sit back, you say, okay, this is what I could picture for the big dog. What do you picture, brother?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, man. I haven't really thought about
That.
what he's going to do or what he's going to be. I did have a conversation with him the other day. I kissed him on his forehead, and I told him that I hope he is all of the best parts of me. I have a lot of bad parts, and I'm not always the best guy. So I just hope he's a better man than I am. I know with his mom there, he'll be okay. But I really
All right.
thought about what I want him to be. It's weird.
No. It's early, bro. You're sleep deprived. Bro, okay. Now, this is where your cousin steps in.
I thought more about what I want the girl to be. What I want.
Yeah, of course. Listen, let's dream big. Please let us be able one day to see this young man play 18 holes in Augusta, Georgia, and let Adam and John watch him. Let this young man be a professional wrestler, and we can sit on the ringside where his music comes out, and let him be a 6'3" monster that wants to talk. Let him sit with his dad, watch a wrestling event, and be like, Papa, I want to do that. And be like, Uncle John has all these nasty ass belts. They're pretty sweet. I want to be in the NWO. And you're like, huh? You're like, I want to be a professional wrestler. Let this young man do some great things that would allow for some wonderful experiences for Doc and Jock. And let him be the most successful in whatever the hell he does. That would be freaking amazing. Let him be a professional golfer. Let him be a world-class athlete. Or somebody that is just a mogul and takes over the media business so that we can sit back in his office and see his palatial office in Troy, Michigan, and deliver him some Chinese food, sit back, watch some college hoop games, and scream our heads off as Michigan State will defeat Michigan consistently with our new 28-year-old head coach who will come in. Mr. Mateen Cleave's son, Jr., will take over the Spartan program and bring us back to the glory days.
I like how you thought more about what my son's going to do than I.
Hell yeah, bro. I've been thinking about it all the time. You think, well, I got nephews. You think about like what wild stuff could they do, bro? You want to be like, I want experiences. I want to tag. Listen, I did my foundation. I want to tag along and have some fun experiences. I want to be the plus one. I want to be the uncle that they go, man, Zuzu did great on the golf course. What do you think? Man, I knew that kid would be great when he was 5 years old. You know what I mean? Me and Adam knew this young boy would when we took him to the park early on in his first 2 weeks of life, we knew that he was destined for some outdoor greatness. So that's how we roll. Cuz great episode. I look forward to breaking it all down next week, seeing how free agency continues to play out on the next episode of Doc and Jock, which is featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.